What's he gonna do, call the police? That's what Braden said until he realized I am the police. This budget security wannabe stood in my driveway with a traffic cone blocking my own vehicle, proudly flashing some bargain bin badge under the streetlight while giving me a lecture on enforcement procedures. Over a fake $79 citation. The nerve was unbelievable. A full-grown man playing dress-up cop on my property, all because HOA overlord Vivian decided my mailbox broke some fantasy regulation. These neighborhood tyrants messed with the wrong person. While Braden paraded his fake authority, my real badge, 20 years of law enforcement behind it, was tucked inside my jacket. I'd just stepped into the role of chief 6 months back, and watching this ridiculous scene unfold was like Christmas morning for someone trained to dismantle conspiracies. I didn't say a word, just smiled, nodded, and began compiling the evidence that would take down their whole crooked setup. So tell me, what would you do if a pretend cop blocked your driveway? Leave a comment from wherever you're tuning in, because you're about to see the most satisfying HOA takedown in history. Let me rewind and explain how this all started. My name's Marcus Rivera. I've worn a badge for 2 decades. Started out on patrol, climbed the ladder through detective work, and 6 months ago, I took over as chief of police in Millbrook Heights. Solid department, quiet suburb, the kind of place where a toilet paper church is front page news. Here's the reality of being chief: the hours are brutal. 60, sometimes 70 a week, always on call. I'm usually in plain clothes and an unmarked car because something urgent just blew up. Most folks think I work in construction, coffee in hand before sunrise, looking like I've battled a tornado. By the time I get home, I moved to Pine Grove Estates 2 years ago after losing my wife Sarah to cancer. Our daughter Sophia, who's 16 now, needed consistency, good schools, calm streets. A place where the biggest weekly drama is who's hosting book club. The house isn't fancy, but in the spring you can smell the mulch from the landscapers, hear sprinklers misting the sidewalks at dawn, and catch the laughter of kids playing out back. It was normal, peaceful, just what we needed. Then came Vivian Whitmore. Take every HOA horror story you've heard, wrap it into one person, and slap a real estate license on her. She's in her 50s, drives a white BMW X5 with a blessed vanity plate, and has ruled as HOA president for 8 years, as if that makes her Pine Grove's Napoleon. She's the type who pulls out a ruler to measure your lawn and knocks on your door if your trash bin's visible for 31 minutes instead of 30. Always in these stiff blazers that sound like plastic wrap when she gestures, which is constantly. Realtor by day, community dictator by night. 3 months ago, I had a small pothole patched in my driveway. Hired a licensed contractor, got the city permits, followed every rule. The repair was slightly darker than the original concrete, barely noticeable. Vivian noticed. She slapped me with a $79 fine for using unauthorized surface material. I submitted all the receipts, permits, even photos to show it was for safety. Didn't matter. Denied in record time. Her exact words. My non-conforming surface disrupted the community's visual harmony. Visual harmony from a woman whose own front yard looks like a Home Depot truck exploded. I paid it. I was knee-deep in a drug investigation. Sophia was adjusting to a new school, not the hill to die on. $79 to get the HOA warlord off my back. Fine, call it a crazy tax. But here's what 20 years in law enforcement teaches you. Bullies can sniff out weakness like vultures find roadkill. Last month, I worked 3 straight nights on a high-priority case. Sophia forgot to pull the trash cans in from the curb. They sat out maybe 30 minutes too long. 30 minutes. The certified letter tore open with that sharp rip, and boom, another fine. This time, $150, labeled a repeat offender. The notice warned of enhanced enforcement measures for failing to demonstrate compliance. Enhanced enforcement. I'm reading this thing still in my wrinkled uniform after a 14-hour shift handling actual crime, and here's this woman threatening me over garbage cans. The absurdity hit like a slap. I've arrested murderers with more reasonable attitudes than Vivian. Still, I didn't yet realize this was more than just power games. Saturday morning. 7 a.m. sharp. I'm halfway through my first coffee when I hear voices out front. Through the window, I see Vivian marching up my driveway with a clipboard and tape measure. Right behind her, Some kid I don't recognize in a cheap-looking security outfit, clearly ordered online. Mid-20s, probably lives with his mom, and practically glows with insecurity. He's got a fake badge and a real attitude. His name tag says B. Hutchkins, enforcement officer, and he's strutting like he's guarding top-secret files. I open the door, and Vivian launches into her spiel. No greeting. Mr. Rivera, we're conducting a compliance inspection. Your mailbox is 2 inches too close to the street line. She holds the tape like it's sacred scripture, pointing at the box like she's performing surgery. Relocate it within 48 hours or face a $300 penalty. 2 inches. $300. I sip my coffee, still hot enough to burn. Somehow makes this exchange tolerable. Morning to you, too, Vivian. That mailbox has been there 5 years, installed by the last owner. Recent bylaw amendments override grandfathered placements, she snaps. Braden, because of course his name is Braden, nods like she just recited the Constitution. The morning air is thick with dew. I catch the scent of bacon somewhere down the block while these two treat my front yard like a crime scene. Back in detective training, we learned about existing non-conforming use. If something was legal when installed, they can't just force changes unless safety's involved. So I decide to test Vivian's legal chops. I'll be happy to review the original covenant's grandfather clause, I say calmly. Make sure the process is being followed correctly. Vivian's eye twitches. It's minor, but 20 years of reading suspects teaches you to catch those micro-reactions. Mr. Rivera, I've overseen this community for 8 years. I know our regulations. I'm sure you do, I reply. Just want to make sure we're thorough. Dot the I's. Cross the T's. Braden jumps in, puffed up with self-importance. Sir, we don't need your permission to enforce community policies. We have full legal authority. Full legal authority. This guy probably learned law from YouTube tutorials and thinks he's got jurisdiction. What training did you have for this position? I ask, genuinely curious. His face turns crimson. I completed a comprehensive security certification online. The silence says everything. Vivian quickly steps between us, like she's diffusing a hostage crisis. Mr. Hutchkins was hired through proper channels, with full board approval. Proper channels, mentally filing that away. Right next to comprehensive online course. Well, I'm sure you won't mind if I request the board meeting minutes that approved his role, his contract too. Public records and all that. The silence stretches. A garbage truck rumbles past, hydraulics hissing. Vivian's blazer crinkles as she shifts uncomfortably. Mr. Rivera, you seem intent on creating problems where there are none. We're simply upholding property values. Understood. But, before I move a mailbox that's been here for half a decade, I'd like to see the specific bylaw wording. Seems fair. Braden starts to speak, but one glare from Vivian shuts him up. Now here's where things turn interesting. Instead of backing off like she expected, I smile and pull out my phone. I'll go ahead and record this for my records. Just documenting everything. The reaction is instant. Vivian's cool demeanor cracks like glass. That won't be necessary, she stammers. You'll receive all needed documentation with your formal notice. 48 hours. Daily inspections will follow. As they retreat, I catch Braden snapping pictures not just of the mailbox, but my house, my car, even my windows. His camera clicks echo in the quiet like some low-budget spy thriller. I shut the door and sip what's left of my now-cold coffee. But I'm not thinking about the temperature. I'm thinking about those board meeting minutes and why two basic questions made them squirm. Something tells me this mailbox fight is just the beginning. 2 days later, after another marathon shift, I pull into my driveway. My phone rings. It's the city water department. Someone filed a complaint about my sprinkler system violating drought laws. Thing is, I don't have a sprinkler system. Just a garden hose I drag out twice a month to water Sophia's herbs. The city rep seems genuinely puzzled and closes the complaint. But clearly, someone deliberately wasted city resources. Next morning, Sophia comes downstairs looking upset. Dad, why are neighbors asking weird stuff about our house? Turns out Vivian's been hitting up every barbecue in town, casually spreading rumors. Unmarked cars, men in plain clothes, meetings at all hours. She's planting seeds, making it sound like I'm running some shady operation. The irony would be funny if my daughter wasn't getting side eyes at the bus stop. That's when I decide to attend the HOA board meeting. Quietly, I slide into The back row, phone discreetly recording. Public meeting, perfectly legal. Learned that trick during a corruption case involving a councilman and kickbacks. The community center smells like stale coffee and cheap carpet cleaner instantly takes me back to interrogation rooms. Watching Vivian run the meeting is like watching a dictator in heels. Robert's rules, parliamentary jargon just to decide if the pool should close at 8 or 9 p.m., but then comes the treasurer's report. And something lights up like a flare. Rick Whitmore, Vivian's husband, owes $12,000 in unpaid dues. 12 grand. But when they discuss collections, his name disappears. Meanwhile, residents who owe less than $200 get enhanced enforcement. Mrs. Morgan gets fined over mulch. The Johnsons for chalk drawings, but Rick. Untouchable. After the meeting, I do what I do best, dig. 20 minutes on the county site reveals Rick's been behind for a year and a half. Not one violation. Meanwhile, single moms and retirees get steamrolled. The pattern is clear. Next day, Vivian makes her boldest move. She shows up with an official-looking document, a $500 security upgrade fee for every household, letterhead, legal language. Very professional. The reason? My job creates unique safety concerns requiring additional protection. What exactly do you think I do? I ask, more amused than anything. She gives me this sly, knowing look. Mr. Rivera, we're not naive. Men in plain clothes. Cars coming and going. We simply want to maintain community standards. You'd think I was running a cartel, not reviewing police files at my kitchen table. While she talks, I notice Braden outside again snapping photos through my fence like a budget paparazzi. That clicking sound, it's the last straw. And this, kid's about to learn some serious lessons in surveillance law. This is where I switch tactics. Instead of pushing back or demanding explanations, I simply signed the assessment notice without a word. You'll have the check by Friday, I tell her, watching the flicker of triumph light up her expression a little too early. She thinks she's cornered me, that she's finally hit the nerve that'll make me break. What Vivian doesn't realize is, she just gave me exactly what I needed, a loaded weapon in plain sight. Each fake document, every biased enforcement action, and every baseless penalty is now forming the spine of a case any prosecutor would drool over. She's so wrapped up in trying to get rid of me, she's forgotten the basics of criminal law. Conspiracy, fraud, civil rights violations, those things leave trails. As she walks away, probably already planning how much she profit when I'm forced to sell at a loss, I'm focused on something else entirely, how gratifying it'll be when this whole scheme crumbles around her. Best part, she's doing all the heavy lifting. Friday morning, I drag myself home after another overnight surveillance shift and find a manila envelope slapped on my front door like it's a court summons. Inside, Vivian's latest attempt at intimidation, a security assessment aimed squarely at me, $500 for enhanced monitoring due to so-called elevated risk factors tied to undeclared business activity. Undeclared business activity. She's clearly been watching too much true crime TV. The breakdown reads like a fantasy list from a paranoid security contractor: extra lighting, surveillance cameras, and my personal favorite, trained personnel skilled in threat analysis. All this because a few detectives swing by to chat over coffee and donuts. The paperwork looks official: stamps, file numbers, everything but actual legal standing. Deadline, 10 days, or they slap a lien on my house. A lien, just for refusing to hand over protection money to my own neighborhood. While I'm still processing the absurdity, Sophia comes downstairs, visibly upset. Braden has apparently gone full stalker, now parked outside her school with a camera. Yesterday, other parents started asking questions, and now Sophia's convinced. Everyone sees us as criminals. That's when this stops being political and becomes personal. I spend the weekend digging deeper, and what I find is jaw-dropping. Vivian's posts on the community app are a masterclass in coded bias references to certain elements, outside influences, protecting community standards, never names, but the timing lines up perfectly with every family she's targeted. Back when I worked gang units, we called this pattern recognition: same tactics, same victims, same outcomes. Public records tell the bigger story. 6 homes in Panera Estates sold well under value after relentless HOA pressure, over coffee. Mrs. Patterson fills in the blanks, tapping her spoon against the cup like a metronome. The Hendersons, young black couple with 2 kids, construction and nursing jobs. Fined for everything under the sun: toys in the yard, paint color, oil stains in the driveway. Ended up selling for $30,000 under just to escape. The Garcias, Latino family, same routine. The pattern so blatant it might as well have a blinking neon sign. Tuesday delivers the killing blow. Rick Whitmore approaches me in the grocery store parking lot, cigarette smoke swirling like nerves around his face. Marcus, can we talk, man to man? He offers a simple fix. Pay $2,000 and all my problems disappear. Says Vivian's under stress, not thinking clearly, but if I don't cooperate, things will get worse for my family. The way he shifts his eyes like we're making a drug deal says everything about how many times they've pulled this before. So I don't push back. I act interested. $2,000, huh? What exactly does that buy me? As he walks me through their services, fewer inspections, fines dropped, Braden backing off, I'm recording every word. He casually references other arrangements that worked out, essentially admitting to a full-blown extortion racket. But then comes the real goldmine. He starts bragging. Turns out this scheme's been running for 3 years. Their targets: families who don't fit the neighborhood profile. His words, not mine. I ask what that means, and he launches into a disturbingly specific explanation about maintaining the community's look and ensuring property values reflect the right demographic. Civil rights violations, conspiracy, extortion. This is the kind of conversation that makes a prosecutor feel like it's Christmas morning. Wednesday night things escalate. Sophia texts me Braden's outside her school again, now armed with professional-grade camera gear aimed at the student parking lot. I find him in his beat-up Honda, snapping photos of teenagers with a telephoto lens. I knock on the window. The car reeks of stale fries and desperation. Afternoon, Braden, doing some wildlife photography. He rolls the window down, instantly defensive. I'm on authorized security patrol. Right, legal patrols of high schools, photographing minors with high-powered lenses. I let that implication sit in the air like Rick's cigarette smoke. You know what people call this behavior, right? His face drains of color. I'm not. That's not. Then explain what it is. Because from this angle, it looks a hell of a lot like stalking. The word stalking hits him like a punch. He babbles about safety and HOA rules, but we both know there's no law backing this. And the best part, I catch all of it on camera, every excuse, every slip, every look of sheer panic. By the time I walk off, he's already packing up, peeling out like someone lit a fire under him. Thursday, I'm camped out at the county clerk's office, returning to basics where every solid case begins. Under buzzing fluorescent lights, I spread the HOA's incorporation papers across a scratched wooden table that's probably seen more legal disasters than I have. What I find makes my coffee taste like ashes. The Pinera Estates HOA was officially dissolved 3 years ago, lapsed state registration. No legal existence, gone. I'm staring at the official notice state seal, dated precisely 36 months back, right around the time Vivian began her crusade. My hands actually tremble rereading it, because the weight of it hits hard. Every fine, every assessment, every foreclosure threat, all carried out by an entity that, legally, doesn't exist. It's like uncovering a crime scene. When the previous board failed to pay the renewal fees, the state pulled the plug. A legitimate HOA would have scrambled to correct it, refile the paperwork, not Vivian. She saw her moment. Kept the branding, maintained the account, and played president with zero accountability. I dig into the financials and nearly gag. $37,000 collected after the dissolution. 37 grand stolen from residents who thought she had authority. Money meant for community improvements, sitting in an account overseen by someone with the legal standing of a pizza delivery guy. Every lien notice fabricated, every gross height citation or mailbox fine. Criminal theft, every so-called security action. Straight up fraud. My phone buzzes, another text from Sophia. Braden's car again, loitering outside her school. But now I see what this is. Not overzealous enforcement. Stalking. Hired by a fraudster running a multi-year scam. It all becomes painfully clear. Vivian's targeting vulnerable families, busy working parents, minorities unaware of their rights, elderly residents who trust too easily, bleed them dry with fake fines until they crack, then swoop in and buy their homes for cheap. A perfect con except for one fatal flaw. She picked the wrong target this time. As I gather the paperwork, the county clerk, who's probably seen every legal disaster in the book, glances up. Find what you were after. More than I bargained for. I say, and it's true. I thought I was dealing with a power-hungry HOA board. Turns out, I've uncovered a criminal network operating for years right under everyone's noses. The irony stings. While Vivian obsessed over what shady things I might be doing, all the unmarked cars, the hushed meetings she's been running a criminal enterprise steps away from the police chief's office. Those suspicious cars, just regular police business. Those meetings, case briefings. The real lawbreaker has been her all along. For the first time in this mess, I'm no longer on the back foot. I'm on offense, and I've got every piece I need to bring her entire scheme crashing down. The only question is whether I take her down quietly or make a public example the whole county won't forget. When I see Sophia's next message, Braden lurking yet again, the answer is clear. Friday morning, I'm in my office before the coffee's even finished brewing, piecing together a case that'll make Vivian wish she'd stuck to flipping condos. The mix of fresh grounds and stale overnight air reminds me of every early stackout I've ever run. Only this time, the criminal has been right in my backyard. First call is to Detective Sarah Coleman, our financial crimes expert, someone who gets excited about tax law. When I explain the dissolved HOA still collecting dues, her voice lights up like it's Christmas. Marcus, this is better than that pyramid scheme we busted last year. That gleam in her voice. That's the sound of a prosecutor's dream. We're looking at conspiracy, fraud, civil rights abuse, maybe even RICO if we can prove the structure. Next stop is District Attorney Patricia Wong, 12 years taking down white-collar crooks. When I lay out Mrs. Patterson's records, Patricia grins like she just smelled blood in the water. Marcus, this could be a landmark HOA case. How many victims? 23 confirmed. Probably more, too embarrassed to come forward. Saying that out loud stings each number a family driven out. While I'm strategizing, an unexpected ally steps up. Mrs. Patterson appears on my doorstep Saturday morning, holding a manila folder, thick as a textbook, a triumphant glint in her eye. I've been documenting everything, she says, settling into my kitchen chair like she's waited years for this moment. Her records would put most detectives to shame: enforcement spreadsheets, threat letters, surveillance photos. Her lavender perfume fills the room as she lays out evidence like she's chairing a board meeting. I knew something was off when the Hendersons got fined for a playhouse, but Rick's broken trailer sat untouched for months. The bias practically leaps off the pages. Working class families hit hard. Vivian's friends, a free pass. Single moms fined for kids' toys, while identical homes owned by couples get warnings instead. It's a textbook case of discriminatory enforcement. Only the textbook would call it criminal conspiracy. And wittingly, Sophia turns out to be our top intelligence source. Teenagers notice what adults don't. Her friends have been snapping pics of Braden for weeks. Dad, Emma's got like 50 photos of that creep. And Jake's mom got fined $200 for parking their van overnight. By Sunday, our planning session looks like a tactical op. Patricia, Sarah, and I sit around the same table where I've mapped drug busts and gang takedowns. But this feels personal and satisfying. Here's our prosecution timeline. Patricia says, her instincts locked in, and the wheels begin to turn. Criminal charges for fraud and conspiracy. Civil asset forfeiture to reclaim embezzled funds. State level violations. A federal probe into civil rights abuses. We're coming at her from every direction. The elegance of our strategy lies in its clarity. Forget secret arrests and sealed indictments. We're going big, loud, and unmistakably public. Vivian scheduled a last-minute community gathering for Wednesday evening, intending to demand my family's expulsion from the neighborhood. Couldn't have asked for a better stage. You mean you want to arrest her in front of everyone she's been conning? Sarah asks, nearly bouncing with excitement. Exactly. Poetic justice in its purest form. And with all the victims in the room, we'll have witnesses to her public confession. Mrs. Patterson takes on the role of neighborhood intel chief, coordinating coffee chats and informal conversations to log Vivian's final intimidation efforts. I'm telling everyone this is their chance to finally confront HOA issues, she says, almost gleeful. Tuesday is all about wrapping up preparations on the scale of a full-blown tactical operation. Undercover officers are quietly stationed around the community center. Search warrants signed and queued, evidence boxes stacked like we're relocating an office. State investigators on standby for parallel raids into HOA finances. Surveillance systems are tested and ready. Audio gear triple-checked. Media outlets notified, but no spoilers leaked. I've handled intricate undercover stings, but nothing has felt as meticulously timed as this suburban takedown. Sophia's staying at her aunt's place Wednesday night partly for her safety, but mostly because I don't want her witnessing her dad go full police chief. I say, "Are you finally going to arrest that creep?" she asks, hope shining in her voice. That hope makes every risk worth it. And then some. By Tuesday night, 3 years of coordinated fraud is about to implode in one masterfully timed evening. Vivian believes she's cornering the troublesome resident. She doesn't realize she's stepping into the most spectacular public fall a petty HOA tyrant has ever faced. Monday morning, and Vivian's in panic mode. Every household receives a certified letter demanding a sudden $3,000 emergency assessment, payable within 72 hours. The letter, dressed up in legal jargon and official formatting, claims the funds are urgently needed to take legal action against a dangerous, non-compliant neighbor. Me. The itemized list includes fake legal fees, court filings, and high-end security consultation costs. It's all fabricated. But the document looks legit enough to stir anxiety among residents. Mrs. Patterson calls within the hour, her voice trembling. "Marcus, people are seriously talking about collecting money to cover your fine just to make this disappear." Exactly what Vivian's banking on: social pressure forcing me out, so no one has to cough up thousands for her fake legal war. But she's showing her hand too clearly. The demand is too steep, the deadline too abrupt, the rationale too flimsy. She's making missteps. Tuesday delivers the backlash she didn't see coming. Online forums light up with outrage over the so-called emergency fees. Residents demand transparency, question the legality, and ask why they're being charged for a personal feud. Control is slipping through Vivian's fingers, and she knows it. Her reply is a predictable spiral, a rambling post filled with paranoia, blaming outside agitators and residents who don't understand community values. She insists she has damning evidence of unlawful acts, justifying her drastic actions. But the paranoia is so obvious, even her loyal supporters begin backing away. Wednesday morning, Braden shifts into full stalker mode. No more just snapping photos now. He's camped out in his Honda at the foot of my driveway, outfitted with what looks like professional spy gear, long lens trained on my windows, audio tech visible in the back seat. He tails me as I leave for work, clueless that he's laughably obvious in morning traffic. I've surveilled real criminals who handled tailing better than this wannabe security guard. His clumsiness works in our favor. Every violation, every creepy action gets logged. Sophia texts from school. "Dad, the creepy guy's back. This time with binoculars." Her photo shows Braden parked across from the high school entrance, binoculars and long lens both visible through the windshield. Seeing this grown man surveilling teens with expensive camera gear makes my blood boil. I drive over during lunch. He's full paparazzi now, lens aimed at the student lot, scribbling notes on which kids get into which cars. The stale stench of fries and cigarettes floats from his window. Afternoon, Braden. "Great day for wildlife photography, huh?" He jumps so hard he nearly drops his camera. "I'm conducting authorized security assessments for community safety." Security assessments, I repeat, slowly, of teenagers, at a public school. I let the silence stretch. You know how that sounds to most people. His face drains of color. "I'm not, that's not," then explain, "because from here, it looks a lot like stalking minors." That word stalking hits him like a slap. He babbles about HOA guidelines and community safety policies. But here's the twist, I'm filming the entire encounter. Every excuse, every shot of his setup, his notebooks full of notes on my daughter and her classmates. Gesturing toward his camera rig, I ask, "How much did the HOA allocate for this surveillance gear?" "It's my personal equipment, personal gear used to photograph kids." "For an organization that pays you how much?" He can't answer, because there is no answer that makes this okay. I walk away as he scrambles to pack up like a street vendor spotting a cop car. Wednesday evening brings the final setup. Vivian announces the emergency meeting through our OC, voice thick with false concern about an ongoing threat to the neighborhood. She's planning her grand finale public shaming intended to drive us out. What she doesn't know is that many residents are already questioning her authority and the rest are about to witness an unprecedented HOA meltdown. Every illegal fine, every act of harassment, Every creepy surveillance moment has led to this. 3 years of deception comes crashing down tomorrow. Vivian thinks she's finally backed me into a corner. What she doesn't see is the trap waiting for her at the center of the spotlight. Wednesday night, just hours before showtime, she launches one last manipulative move. Robocalls hit every home at dinner time. Vivian's voice warning of a security emergency. She claims tonight's meeting will determine urgent steps to protect property values and children's safety. She's painting me as a threat, justifying whatever stunt she has planned. The calls urge residents to bring ID and be ready to vote on enforcement actions. Translation: she's staging a kangaroo court to expel my family in front of a crowd. An hour later, Braden kicks intimidation into high gear. He parks directly across from my house, engine running, high beams burning into our windows. The noise and glare scream siege tactics. Sophia peers through the blinds, clearly shaken. Dad, this is really scary. She's not wrong, but not for the reason she thinks. What's frightening is how far Vivian and Braden are willing to go to keep their fraud alive. The stalking, the threats, the harassment, they're backed into a corner now. And cornered. People are dangerous. Around 8 p.m., neighbors start calling. First Mrs. Patterson. Marcus, she's going door to door, telling people you're a criminal who needs to be removed. Then Mrs. Morgan. She showed me photos of police at your house. Said it proves illegal activity. Vivian's gone full paranoia and it's a tactical error. She's so obsessed with villainizing me, she's forgotten how aggressive and unstable she appears to everyone else. Mrs. Peterson says Vivian demanded entry into her home to check for criminal collaborators. Several neighbors felt threatened by her. She kept asking about my grandson from college. Mrs. Morgan adds, wanted to know if he's in your so-called criminal group. The way she stared at our family pictures gave me chills. The racial bias isn't subtle. She's singling out immigrants and minority families, amplifying the discrimination she's quietly practiced for years. By 9 p.m., intimidation escalates. Braden returns with two unfamiliar men in a black pickup, windows tinted dark. They station themselves on either end of the street, forming a surveillance triangle. Cigarette smoke wafts into my kitchen from their rotating smoke breaks, making sure I see them. Here's where I flip the script. Instead of retreating, I step onto the porch with a coffee and cheerfully wave at each position. My comm throws them. They expected fear, not confidence. I snap pictures of their trucks, license plates, and faces. Braden sees and marches to the property line. Sir, stop taking photos. We're conducting official HOA security on a public street. With unlicensed personnel, I snap another photo. You know what's great about public property, Braden? Anyone can take pictures. His backup drives off, leaving him alone. With his fake badge and zero authority, their scare tactics just gave me more evidence. By 10 p.m., Vivian makes her final mistake. She calls me directly. Mr. Rivera, she says, voice tight, I know what you're up to. It won't work. Tomorrow, this community will vote to remove you. You'll be forced to sell and leave. Is that a threat? Vivian, it's a promise. We have full authority to remove disruptive residents, and we're ready to act. Every word is recorded. Authority based on what, exactly? A pause. Our standing as the duly elected HOA board and our duty to uphold community standards. Her breath hitches. This isn't just a takedown anymore. It's the reckoning she never saw coming. Delia lead HOA board without legal authority, tied to a dissolved corporation, utterly powerless under the law. Looking forward to tomorrow night's meeting, I tell her. Should be quite the learning experience for everyone. Once the call ends, I relax on the porch, finishing the last of my coffee. Across the street, Braden's sorry excuse for surveillance continues. His engine hums quietly under the night sky, blending with the distant murmur of freeway traffic. But beneath that noise, I could almost hear the quiet ticking of a countdown clock. In 24 hours, Vivian's 3-year con comes to an end. In front of a full audience. Thursday, 7 p.m. sharp, I enter the Pine Grove Estates Community Center in plain clothes, wearing a carefully crafted look of defeat. The place is overflowing, over 60 residents packed into every chair, with the rest lining the back wall, shoulder to shoulder. The air carries the bitter scent of burnt coffee from some ancient machine, mixed with the anxious anticipation of people about to witness history. Vivian stands proudly at the front like she's hosting an international summit, backed by a podium she clearly rented for the moment. Her white blazer practically glows beneath the unforgiving fluorescent lighting as she rifles through a stack of papers meant to look official. Braden is stationed by the entrance, dressed in his fake uniform, holding a clipboard like he's vetting guests for a VIP gala. I spot Detective Coleman 3 rows deep, blending in as just another concerned neighbor. Sarah's posted near the side door, phone ready to initiate the takedown. From the front row, Mrs. Patterson gives me the faintest nod, a folder of carefully gathered evidence sitting quietly in her lap. Vivian kicks things off with all the flair her oversized ego can manage. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we address a serious danger to our community's well-being and property values, she proclaims. She dives into a PowerPoint presentation that might seem convincing if it weren't. Complete nonsense. Photos of random, unmarked vehicles parked near my house. Men in plain clothes having so-called suspicious meetings. Diagrams supposedly linking my presence to declining safety in the neighborhood. The projector screen flickers as she cycles through dramatic slides labeled evidence of criminal activity and community safety protocols. With our thorough investigation, she declares, her tone reaching full courtroom drama, we have enough proof to show that Mr. Rivera is running an unauthorized business from his residence, activities not only incompatible with residential zoning but also putting our families at risk. A ripple of unease spreads through the room. A few neighbors nod, visibly convinced by her performance. Mrs. Morgan looks deeply concerned, probably thinking her suspicions about me were spot on. And so, Vivian concludes with a dramatic pause. This board is prepared to act immediately. Mr. Rivera is hereby ordered to pay $8,000 in fines and halt all illegal activity within 10 days or face forced foreclosure proceedings. $8,000. The figure hangs in the air like a puff of smoke from Rick's ever-present cigarettes. Gasps echo across the room. Someone in the back yells, that seems a bit much. Vivian calmly raises her hand for silence. Mr. Rivera, she says, would you care to respond to these serious charges before we move forward with a community vote? This is it, the moment we've all been working toward. I rise slowly, keeping up the act of the beaten-down scapegoat, and make my way to the front. Every eye in the room follows me as I approach the podium. Vivian watches with smug anticipation. Before I address these accusations, I begin. I have just one simple question. I place my phone on the podium, recording every word. Can you show proof that this HOA has any legal authority to issue fines or place liens on residents' property? Vivian's smug expression wavers. Of course we have authority. We're the duly elected board of the Pine Grove Estates Homeowners Association. And when was this association last registered with the state? A long silence stretches across the room, broken only by the sudden click of the AC kicking on. Vivian shifts uncomfortably, her blazer rustling. Mr. Rivera, this is an obvious attempt to stall with legal loopholes. It's not a loophole. It's a direct question, I reply. When was the last time you paid your state registration fee to keep the HOA in good standing? Her face turns the color of bleached paper. The room stirs with murmurs as residents start sensing they've missed something big. Then I reach into my jacket, pull out my badge, and place it next to the phone on the podium. The metal gleams under the lights. Mom, I say, I'm Chief Marcus Rivera of the Millbrook Heights Police Department. My voice cuts through the room with months of hidden authority. You are under arrest for running a criminal organization, theft by deception, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Gasps and shocked exclamations fill the room. I begin reading her rights aloud. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Vivian's jaw opens and closes, stunned and speechless. No, you can't. This has to be a setup. Detective Coleman and Sarah move in from opposite ends of the room, badges out. Braden looks around in sheer panic, realizing his pretend power just disappeared in front of everyone. The Pine Grove Estates HOA was legally dissolved 3 years ago, I announced to the shocked crowd. Every fine, every threat, every so-called rule she enforced was completely fraudulent. Chaos erupts. Residents rise to their feet. Coleman cuffs Vivian while she shouts about entrapment. The clink of the handcuffs echoes as Braden bolts for the door only to slam directly into Sarah's outstretched arms. The scent of burnt coffee and tension hangs heavy as over 60 stunned neighbors watch their self-proclaimed ruler finally fall. Ladies and gentlemen, I say, my badge catching the light, for 3 years, you've been targets of a calculated fraud. Every citation, every fee illegal. Mrs. Patterson stands like justice incarnate, lifting her folder. I've documented every fake charge, she declares. Mrs. Morgan's $800 fine for gardening, theft, the Johnson sidewalk chalk citation, extortion. A wave of realization crashes through the room as neighbors pull out their phones, comparing notes and stories of the harassment they thought they had to tolerate. Within hours, arrest makes national headlines. Police chief exposes HOA scam leads every news segment. Footage of the takedown goes viral. Overnight, I become the unexpected face of resistance against neighborhood tyranny. Requests pour in from journalists eager to cover the case of patience, perseverance, and justice served on a silver platter. The legal process moves swiftly. Vivian gets 3 years behind bars and is ordered to pay full restitution. Braden gets probation and can't go within 500 feet of any school. Most importantly, $47,000 is recovered and returned to the 28 families they cheated. That money pays for home repairs, tuition, medical expenses, needs that had gone unmet thanks to fake penalties. But the biggest change. Pine Grove Estates itself. Mrs. Patterson is elected president of our now properly registered HOA. The first thing she does is eliminate fines for aesthetic violations and instead focus on real improvements. The sound of kids playing fills the neighborhood again. Mrs. Morgan plants a flourishing liberation garden in her front yard. Bok choy, snow peas, herbs shared freely with neighbors. The smell of fresh soil replaces the artificial fear that once lingered here. Sophia begins organizing block parties that teens actually want to attend. No more hiding from bogus security patrols. 6 months later, I helped the state attorney general launch an HOA fraud prevention initiative. We create online tools to help people verify whether their HOA is legally registered and recognize red flags. Here's your takeaway. Before paying any HOA fee over $50, check your Secretary of State's website to confirm that the association is still legally incorporated. The highlight of our recovery. The Pine Grove Scholarship Foundation, fully funded by reclaimed fraud money. This year alone, we are sending 5 local students to college, including Emma, whose family Vivian nearly drove out with harassment. Seeing her open that acceptance letter, knowing her family could afford it because justice was served, made every sleepless night worth it. Now I speak at law enforcement conferences, sharing what this case taught me. Sometimes, great police work is about patience, evidence, and letting criminals do the work of exposing themselves. The case is now required reading in community policing classes, proof that being part of the neighborhood you protect gives you insight no patrol car ever could. 1 year to the day after Vivian's arrest, our first annual Pine Grove Community Festival takes place. Families from 3 counties join in. The smell of grilled burgers and stir-fried vegetables fills the air. Kids play freely in front yards, no longer policed by fear. Veterans like Tom proudly march with their service dogs honored, not ticketed. And those orange traffic cones that started this whole ordeal, we turned them into planters for sunflowers in our community garden. Sometimes the best revenge is a thriving, happy life with justice served publicly and thoroughly. Best of all, 3 other dissolved HOAs in our county got exposed when their residents followed our lead and checked the records. Turns out, Vivian wasn't the only self-declared ruler running a scam. Looking back, I'm honestly glad she came after me. Because sometimes, karma just needs a little backup from someone with a badge and 2 decades of investigative experience.